And when news of ISIS beheading 21 Egyptian Christians broke, the White House would not say Christians, instead calling them Egyptian citizens. Why? Our Ed Henry asked Press Secretary Josh Earnest about that today.
Why didn't you mention it was 21 Christians killed by Muslims? Is that relevant?
It sure is, because the ISIL extremists who carried out this attack indicated that the reason that they were killing them wasn't just because they were Egyptian, but also because they were Christian.
Given that, why were you not clear on Sunday? It went out under your name. Why didn't you say 21 Christians were killed?
Yeah. Well, Ed, I've tried to be clear here. I can't account for that specific line in the statement.
And Fox News Chief White House Correspondent Ed Henry joins us live. Ed, give me some more background on this back and forth today.
Well, it's curious as to why Josh Earnest did not mention that they were Christians. As he's saying now, look, Ed, it's obvious. Of course, they were all Christians, all 21 of them beheaded on Sunday, and they were targeted because of their faith. And yet the White House wouldn't say it then. And remember, we've had this conversation for some time. Eric Holder, the Attorney General, dismissed it yesterday, took a shot at Fox News and said this whole debate about whether or not to call it Islamic extremism is silly and that we should focus on the problem, not what you call it. But on the issue of language, the White House, whether it's calling out Islamic extremism or calling out the fact that Christians were killed, were targeted and killed, they sometimes just don't want to do it. In contrast, the context here is that late last week, the president himself put out a written statement, not Josh Earnest, referring to the tragedy of 3 Muslim students being killed at the University of North Carolina. And the president said in that statement, no one in America should be targeted because of what they look like, who they are, or what their faith is. Well, as you know, there's a criminal investigation ongoing where it's unclear that their Muslim faith had anything to do with those tragic murders. There's reports that it was about a parking spot dispute. Still tragic, but their faith may have played no role. And so why the White House would include the issue of faith in that case and not when 21 Christians are targeted is pretty curious.
And I think today the president did finally use the term Christians. I guess he's been getting a lot of heat from the media, but he's gotten a lot of pushing and shoving from people to call it like it is.
Yeah, he put an op-ed. He had an op-ed in the LA Times, and I think it was timed, obviously, for day 2 of this summit on what they call violent extremism. And the president did mention that Christians had been targeted over the weekend. But again, the president himself had not put out a statement about that over the weekend because, remember, he was playing golf in Palm Springs over the President's Day weekend. He has not spoken out on this until this op-ed today in the LA Times several days later.
Ed, thank you.
Good to see you.
And the State Department spokesperson, Marie Harf, getting herself into hot water, and now she is scrambling to try to get out. She's making the rounds, trying to explain away her controversial comment about stopping ISIS by giving them jobs.
We cannot win this war by killing them. We cannot kill our way out of this war. We need, in the longer term, medium and longer term, to go after the root causes that leads people to join these groups. Whether it's lack of opportunity for jobs, we can work with countries around the world to help improve their governance. We can help them build their economy so they can have job opportunities for these people. I'm not sure I would take a mulligan on this one, but I think he went on to say something I would agree with, that, look, in the short term, we are killing them, and we will continue killing ISIS terrorists that pose a threat to us. We're very good at that. I mean, General Hayden can speak to that better than anyone. But in the longer term, and this isn't specific to ISIL, military commanders, politicians of both parties, counterterrorism experts all agree that if you're going to prevent terrorist groups from spreading to other places and getting more recruits, you have to look at the root causes that can lead people to extremism. You have to do all of it. You have to take them on militarily, but you have to look at things like governance, like opportunity, so these groups aren't able to get more people to their cause.
And now President Obama backing up Harf's comments.
We do have to address the grievances that terrorists exploit, including economic grievances. Poverty alone does not cause a person to become a terrorist.
And joining us, our political panel, the Hill's A.B. Stoddard and the Weekly Standard's John McCormick. A.B., Harf says we can't kill our way out. Of course, killing will stop the beheading. If we kill them, then they can't beheading. And suggested jobs might be a good idea, but we've been waiting since February of '09 for the stimulus for many Americans to get jobs. I don't think we can wait for jobs. So your thought on what's going on there?
Well, what she said, getting at the root cause of terror and why ISIS has been able to galvanize Westerners to the fight, is actually perfectly reasonable. Bush President George W. Bush said these same things. He said in an absence of, with poverty, you have a vacuum and a lack of hope that can lead to terrorism.
We have so much poverty in this country, but they're not in the
I'm
middle
just telling you, this is what our previous president said. He said the same things President Obama said today.
Then he's wrong too.
But what she said about what makes some youth turn to an AK-47 instead of starting their own business seemed very silly coming the day after we saw 21 Christians beheaded in Egypt. There is a sense in this country that there's not a sense of urgency about the severity of the problem within this White House, and that they're playing down the real security threat while they try to talk about the long-term resolution of root causes. So while that is sensible and reasonable in the long term, the real concern here is that they're not focused on the immediate threat, and that scares people.
John.
Well, she's just parroting the administration line. I mean, John Kerry said a few weeks ago that, you know, what the real motivation of terrorism is, it's alienation, it's poverty, it's thrill-seeking.
And other administrations have said the same.
Well, they said the same. And as Tulsi Gabbard, the Democrat, on your show from Hawaii, said on your show, you know, if that's the real motivation, we should give them some skateboards and we should, you know, give them jobs, and then maybe that would solve the problem. That's obviously not the problem. You know, I do have sympathy for the president trying to marginalize the terrorists. Obviously, you want to split them off from the vast majority of Muslims who are peaceful. We've done this before. We have defeated the terrorists. We defeated the predecessor of ISIS, Al-Qaeda in Iraq, with the surge. We defeated them by providing security, by killing them, and having the Sunni tribes turn against them. So that's and the president doesn't have a military strategy to actually help turn the moderates
I don't know why this jobs thing rubs me the wrong way, because I think there's so many Americans in this country who don't have jobs, and they just aren't going out and beheading. So I mean, to me, it just underestimates really what's going on. But I'm taking the last word of this, but I want you to stay with us. Straight ahead, will the 3-day White House summit lead to a real plan to stop ISIS and Al-Qaeda, or is it just a big political show? A Navy SEAL turned congressman is here to talk about that. Plus, the American sniper trial. The ex-girlfriend of the accused killer telling the jury the accused killer once called her a demon and pulled a ninja sword on her. The defendant's sister also taking the stand. That's all coming up.